Friends, it's Everything Mayor. The first episode I've ever had to do multiple takes on, and it's episode 40. You would think by this point in the show's history that I'd have this on lockdown, and I usually do, and I usually just let it ride, but there have been some false starts, and it just hasn't worked. But this is going to be the one. I feel it. I feel it. I feel it. So if you're new here, welcome. If you've been here for 40 episodes, thank you very much for your support. Whether you are a member, whether you are a longtime subscriber, a commenter, a liker, disliker, whatever it is you do to support this show, I sincerely appreciate it. We're going to talk about a few things today, first of which is going to be the John Mayer, Shawn Mendes interview on How's Life with John Mayer. We'll touch on that a little bit. Beyond that, though, still SiriusXM adjacent. I've got a little clip from, I believe it was Saturday night or Friday night, maybe. Not sure which one, but this past weekend of John talking about recording the new album, which is what we're all very interested in on the show. Then we'll talk about some Dead & Company stuff. And then I've broken up John Mayer's career into, let's see here, 6 different eras. And I want to know what your favorite one is. Now, you can disagree with me on what the eras are. That's fine. But my show, my rules. Just kidding. Feel free to comment on the eras as well. But first, let's talk about the John Mayer, Shawn Mendes interview. This is sort of version 2.0 of the interview magazine.com print interview, written interview that John conducted with Shawn earlier in the year. We did an episode on that right here on this channel, so feel free to dig back and find that. But similarly, these are interviews that are focused on Shawn Mendes, not John Mayer. Now, John Mayer, being just not your average interviewer, of course, is going to interject some more of himself into the interview than I think you would get out of most. Also, they're very good friends. So that's pretty much all I'm going to say about it. I mean, it's to be honest with you, it was tiring for me to listen to, and not in a bad way where it's like, oh, I can't get through this. It was just, it's two friends who are very, very invested in each other and care very much for each other. And it feels like a therapy session more than anything. And from a human perspective, it's really cool because you feel like you get to know both these guys over the course of the hour a little bit better, which is awesome because I don't know either one of them. But I get the sense that I would like them. So and I feel that way even more so after listening to this. But as far as, it's not like super dark or heavy, but it's definitely pretty analytical inside. It's very self-reflective. There's tons of metaphors, and it's not a. I found myself unable to do anything else while listening to it. I had to focus in on it, which then caused me by the end of it to be a little bit tired. But that's okay. I think it's still worth checking out. They're posting clips here and there. If you happen to have a subscription, you can go back and watch and listen to the whole thing. So you should do that. But more importantly for this show, because on this show we are John Mayer music focused. On SiriusXM, he went live on, I think he says Saturday. I want to say that's when it was. Yeah, probably Saturday the 14th. And he said this, John, in his own words.
It's Saturday night, a night for going out to Christmas and holiday parties, one that I am staying in because I went pretty hard in the studio this week, digging around through my skull looking for words that made sense and rhymed. Not always easy to do, as you may have seen people talk about. But I found enough words that rhymed to put together into one song that had melodies I liked a lot. And so personally, I'm satisfied and happy to hang out at home and happy to play some music for you for the next hour if you'd like to hang around.
There you go. So quells the fears, right? Of Mayer dropping the album, not dropping the album like as in finishing it, but working on it. He is still hard at work. I think it's not going to be linear. I think if we had a chance to talk to him, he would tell you that this process of making a record now, and my guess is it's been this way for a few records, not so much maybe at the beginning when he was driven by external forces more so. Now that he's not on a record label and he's established as a, soon to be legendary artist, he kind of writes his own schedule and rules. And I think that it's going to be in bursts. And it sounds like last week was a good productive burst on a song in the studio. And he is, one thing he does mention in the Shawn Mendes interview is just how intentional he is with his music. And I think that Mendes, he gives him a great compliment that it's his Mayer's music is different than a lot of other people's because it's so nuanced, it's so textured, it's so intentional. And I think that's true. I think that's what we all latch onto here on this channel. If you're watching this, you're a John Mayer super fan, and he actually mentioned some super fan stuff. Well, I'll bring that up in a minute. But if you're watching this, you understand that there's something special about Mayer's music, and to make that stuff, sometimes it's not going to be those lightning rod songs that just come in from the heavens above and they're done in a matter of 20 minutes and it's a huge hit. Sometimes it takes time. I think we're watching him, sift through certain things and find his way to figure out what this album is going to be. And sort of thematically related to this episode, there are eras that I think he's, looking at on this album, not to bring in a Taylor Swift era type thing, but eras of his career, eras of his style, eras of his songwriting approach, his guitar playing approach. And it sounds to me like all of those will be represented on this new record. I think it's just going to take some time for him to work out how it's going to look and how it's going to sound. He's doing that. That's exciting. It's cool to hear that he's kind of like, basking in the glory of a very productive week in the studio on the new record. Now, I did mention superfans, and I think one of the things that was kind of fun and interesting on the How's Life with John Mayer interview with Shawn Mendes was he's talking to Shawn about the fact that you're not going to sell out arenas with 20,000 superfans. There's going to be the majority of the people there who are kind of passerbys who say, yeah, I like that guy's music. Let's go. That'd be a fun night. Let's go check it out. I like that song. Not everybody's going to be this level of commitment and obsession as the Everything Mayer community demonstrates with John Mayer. But I will say this. I think depending on the artist, and this is nothing against Shawn Mendes, but I think it's depending on the artist, you're going to get more or less of that like aficionado super fan type thing going on. No offense to Shawn Mendes, but he's not there in his career. I don't know if he ever will be, but he doesn't exist. And I think he probably would understand this too. A big sign of this is people who record concerts. So like a la Grateful Dead, Dead and Company, Fish, Dave Matthews Band, even John Mayer. Tapers, and people who show up at a concert to legally tape a show because the artist wants them to and to pass it around. People aren't doing that at Shawn Mendes shows. It's, people aren't obsessing over the pedal board that Shawn Mendes has or doesn't have or what guitar he's playing. I think that the artist really dictates, the type of artist dictates whether or not the fan base is going to be that way. And it's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing at all. Nothing, I think that's it. It's not bad. It's fine. It's good. It's in fact to just enjoy the music for what it is sometimes. So it was kind of funny because when they mentioned superfans, I'm thinking of all of us, and it's like, well, yeah, there aren't 20,000 of us in an arena, but I will say, I think there's at this point, if you're into the Mayer thing, yeah, you might still be buying concert tickets just because you want to go hear Waiting on the World to Change or No Such Thing or Your Body's in Wonderland or Daughters. But I think those years have kind of passed where it's like, I like John Mayer and you only know like 3 of his songs. I don't think that's who's going to the shows anymore. I think it's the majority of people like us who are super into the catalog, super into the music, super into the guitar playing, and super into all of the other creative endeavors that Mayer brings to the table. Speaking of creative endeavors, let's segue into Dead and Company. Now, we've talked about Dead and Company quite a bit, and again, some of you have shared frustrations with Dead and Company being a distraction away from the new record being done or a new tour coming out. And sure, he can't tour for a John Mayer record and play Sphere shows or do special engagements with Dead and Company. Yeah, obviously, but I don't think it's not this thing where it's like one instead of the other. I think for the new record to happen, he's got to do what he's inspired to do with the Dead and Company stuff. And I've seen comments where it's like, oh, it's a money grab, it's this, and it's like, I I just don't get that sense. I mean, like, is it financially successful? Yeah. I mean, like, yes. I mean, they went to the Sphere, they sold a ton of tickets, and it did really, really well. And so, yes, there are probably a lot of people looking at the ledger sheet saying we should do this again because this was awesome, obviously. But, I can't speak for some of the lower profile musicians in Dead & Company, but certainly the Bob Weirs, the John Mayers, they're not in need of doing this. And I just don't get the sense that they're out to do anything that would be just a money grab. Are we all inspired by, something that is financially beneficial? Yeah, sure. For sure. But then, sometimes you do a podcast about one of your favorite musicians, and it does not make you rich. In fact, some would argue it costs you money. So, and I guess that leads me to the biggest question. Speaking of a podcast costing you money, is should I go to a Sphere show this go round? And yes, of course, I want to go. But should I? And I'm not asking you to answer that question for me. Obviously, I have to answer that question for me. But I am asking that question of you. How inspired are you to go and see one of these shows at the Sphere? And again, try to, it's expensive. So maybe put that aside for a second and say, how excited am I to go? Now, I would be excited for multiple reasons. One, I think I would just like to see that venue. And it really doesn't matter to me who's playing, to be honest. I would just like to experience it, just to see, because I feel like it's the future of a lot of entertainment. There are sports bars now, which are like a mini Sphere, and it looks like you're on an NFL field, or it looks like you're sitting in the end zone of an NFL game, but you're actually in this 360 wraparound screen that's built around a sports bar, which is kind of crazy. So I would like to experience that. What better way to experience it than with a 3-hour guitar solo, basically, from one of your favorite guitar players in musicians, John Mayer. So yeah, I mean, without the practical side of it, looking into that, I would love to go to see the show. I'd love to do an episode from there, and I'd love to kind of chronicle the whole thing as I go. Will I? I'm not so sure yet. But will you? That's what I would like to know. Will you go and check out a show at Sphere to see Dead & Company? Arguably, there's probably not that many opportunities. I mean, I don't know, relatively speaking, how many more of these they're going to do. Who knows? They're not going to talk about that. They didn't talk about it when they closed it out last summer. But we all kind of had a feeling that it went really well and they might be back. So I'm curious to know if you are planning on going, if you're wanting to go, if you wish you could go, but you can't. Or if you're just not interested and just say, you know what, I'd rather save my time and money for that JM solo tour, not solo, but like a solo record type tour. I already had a friend text me and tell me that. And, I can't blame him. Can't blame him, because I could see how I could feel that way as well. But also, all things considered, if I could just teleport there and not have it cost me thousands of dollars, then yeah, I would like to go. I suspect you might say the same thing. All right, so I promised some eras in John Mayer's career. And here are the eras that I broke up his career into. The indie era. So this is Inside Wants Out. This is all of the bootlegs. It's the Eddie's Attic, Atlanta, Georgia years. Him and David LaBerriere playing, he's playing solo acoustic shows. He's playing duo shows with De La. So that's era number one. Era number two is going to be the breakout era. So that's like Room for Squares, heavier things. So you've got Your Body's a Wonderland and Daughters really solidifying him as a huge pop star. Then we move into the trio continuum era. I hesitated. I was almost going to put Battle Studies in there, but I didn't. Battle Studies is its own era because it's this like pop. It's got this, that's the era of like, almost overconfidence, not overconfidence, but there's a swagger to the Battle Studies era that just wasn't the same vibe on the trio and continuum time period, and certainly wasn't part of the Born and Raised Paradise Valley era, which was the fifth one. And then I grouped Search for Everything and Sob Rock into an era as well. So there you go. What's your favorite era if you had to pick one out of all of those? So we've got the indie era. the Breakout era, the Trio/Continuum era, the Battle Studies era, the Born and Raised Paradise Valley era, and the Search for Everything Sob Rock era. My favorite, if I have to pick one, it's a tough one. Man, is that a tough. I'm going to say Search for Everything Sob Rock, but that is closely followed by the Breakout and Trio Continuum eras, tied for second. Because I have very fond memories of discovering John Mayer. I won't tell you that I was there in 1998 or 9. I wasn't. I was there probably just before Room for Squares came out. So Breakout era, and then the Trio Continuum era, man, is a guitar player. What an amazingly inspiring era to watch him grow up in. And then, but my favorite overall, it just encompasses all those things. Search for Everything, Sob Rock. It just is. I know that the popular answer might be the Continuum Trio era, but for me, Search for Everything, Sob Rock. So that is my answer. What is your answer? 6 eras of John Mayer's career, and which one has been your favorite thus far? Maybe the new one that's coming up, the no record label, multi-creative endeavor 7th era that is not complete, that we're in the middle of right now. Maybe that will be your favorite in the future. But as far as eras that have bygone and exist now in the past, at least as far as my rule set here, what is your favorite? That's my question as we move into the applause indicating the After Dinner Mint. The After Dinner Mint, the place where I can relax, take a breath, take a sip of water, and just bask in all of you who have watched and listened to this far. As always, can you see that? If you're watching in HD, water splashing out of my cup onto my face. So After Dinner Mint. Main thing, I've been teasing this every episode here. The giveaway. Make sure you're if you want to enter the giveaway, link is in the description below. We are giving away a guitar, a Silver Sky SE. We're giving away an amp, a Boss Katana, and a few guitar pedals, and a to be determined amount of merch, things like this. Got a t-shirt, all sorts of fun stuff. So the official rules are posted both on my website as well as in the link below to enter. No purchase necessary. The big stuff you are only eligible to get if you're in the United States, because it's a nightmare to ship things of this magnitude throughout the world, and I'm sorry about that. However, if for some reason the random drawing chooses someone who is outside of the country, I will still try to hook you up with some merch, but I will have to move on to someone who is here to be able to give you one of the larger things. So that's that. After Dinner Mint folk, what do you think about the... I already asked this question in the main section of the show, but as I mull over the idea of going to see John Mayer at the Sphere, I don't know. Every day is different. Yesterday, I was all about it. I looked up flights, but today, not really all about it. Seems like a lot of effort, and I don't know if I really want to do it. Are you having the same experience, waffling back and forth on whether or not you'd like to go see Dead and Company at the Sphere? I feel like I've done that in the past, even when I bought tickets to their shows. I'm just like, do I really want to go to this? Like, yeah, I guess I do. And then I've never been sorry after I've gone to see them. It's always fun. It's just low stakes, low pressure. I don't know a ton of the music. I'm not upset if I miss a song. I'm not upset if they don't play something. It's a more relaxing way to go to a show, and I get to see and hear Mayer play, which is awesome. When it's an actual John Mayer show, it's like I am glued to my seat. I don't want to miss a second of it. I'm hoping for certain songs, and I'm trying not to get disappointed if he doesn't play them. So it's just that's a different concert going experience, both of which I enjoy, but I don't know. I'm waffling back and forth on the Dead and Company at the Sphere thing. One day I'm into it, the next day I'm not. Who knows? We'll see. My credit card probably hopes that I'm just not into it in general. But couple show notes as we come into the end of the year. Again, 40 episodes. Thank you so much. I got to think of something special to do for the 50th episode, which is 10 weeks away, or a little bit longer, which is what I'm coming up to here. Is I think we're going to take after the giveaway is done, which is going to basically close out the year. It'll be the last episode of the year that the giveaway winners are announced on. I think we might have to take a small break, like a 2-week break. You know, we all need it. The holidays are going to be over. The new year is going to be starting. So I think I might take a break. I'll post about that on the community tab on the YouTube channel, so you can stay tuned there. Of course, go back and check out the old stuff. If you miss me that much during that break time, consider joining as a Born and Raised Again level member on the channel. You can have access to a lot of bonus content that is otherwise not available. So, but yeah, inevitably when I take that break, something will happen. Mayer will drop like a single or some massive, nugget of information about the new record, or we'll have some amazing guest spots somewhere, and I'll have to come out of retirement for those 2 weeks and talk about Mayer. But that's the plan. I'll be more specific after I figure out the schedule as to when that break exactly is going to be. But there's going to be a break. Need a little bit of a break, a couple weeks. That's all. Nothing crazy. But in the meantime, I'm excited, as always, about where this is all going. And I feel like we're just in we're in a little bit of a holding pattern right now, just a little bit. We need some new music. We need a tour, and that will propel this show that I've come to enjoy doing so much forward into the next stratosphere that I know it can go to be into being. But until then, thank you to all of you who subscribe, to those of you who watch and listen. 40 episodes. You've inspired me to do this 40 times, and I thank you. We'll catch you soon in the next episode of Everything Mayer.